All right, let's break down what COP30 in Belém, Brazil really means for us, for the scientific community. This isn't just another conference on the calendar. It's being framed as the moment, the one where all our years of research, our data, our warnings finally have to translate into real, measurable action. So to start, let's look at the hard evidence that's setting the stage for this whole thing.
The entire context for Belém, really, it all starts with this one stark number. The World Meteorological Organization has now confirmed it. 2024 was the warmest year on record, hitting 1.55 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. This isn't a future projection anymore, it's not a model, it's the reality we're in right now. And you can bet this is the number that's going to hang over every single conversation at this conference.
And just to be crystal clear about what that means, here's the official word from the head of the IPCC, Jim Scia. The scientific consensus is absolutely unambiguous. We are going to breach the 1.5-degree threshold. And as he points out, this isn't a failure of our evidence. It's a failure of insufficient climate action. It's a really sobering validation of everything our community has been warning about, and it's the very foundation of COP30's entire mission.
So how is the world supposed to respond to a reality like that? Well, in this briefing, we're going to walk through the game plan. We'll start with the science that's driving all this. Then we'll get into why they're calling Belém the COP of truth. After that, we'll break down their official action agenda, look at how they plan to implement it, and finally, we'll pinpoint exactly where our scientific expertise is being called on to step up.
Okay, first up, the scientific imperative. Everything that comes next, all the politics, the action plans, the money, it's all a direct reaction to the data. And while the headlines are pretty grim, there's a really critical nuance in the latest analysis from the UNFCCC that we need to understand.
So here's a crucial piece of context. For the very first time since these conferences started, the policies being put in place are actually making a dent in global emissions. The UNFCCC's own executive secretary has confirmed it. The curve is bending downwards. Remember, before the Paris Agreement, we were on a catastrophic path, heading towards nearly 5 degrees of warming. The picture today is still incredibly urgent, but it is different.
And here are the hard numbers to back that up from the latest NDC synthesis report. Based on the commitments countries have made so far, global emissions are projected to be about 12% lower in 2035 than they were in 2019. Now, that's tangible progress. It proves that these policy levers can actually work. The problem, as everyone from the IPCC on down is warning, is that this pace is just nowhere near fast enough to keep us within safe planetary boundaries.
And that gap, right? The one between making some progress and moving at the speed that's required? Well, that's precisely why the organizers are giving this conference a new, unflinching identity. They're calling it the COP of Truth, and it's meant to signal a totally new mandate for a new era. Now, the COP of Truth isn't just some clever slogan. It's a structural mandate. Think about it. After a decade of negotiating the rulebook for the Paris Agreement, COP30 is officially kicking off what's being called the first full implementation cycle. The idea is that the era of debate is over. The decade of delivery is supposed to begin now. And that shift is pretty fundamental. Where past conferences were all about negotiating text and getting countries to make pledges, the goal in Belém is all about implementation and delivery. The main output is no longer supposed to be just an agreement on paper, but actual, measurable, real-world action. So if the goal is delivery, then what's the blueprint? Well, the Brazilian presidency has put together a very structured action agenda that's designed to guide the whole conference and make sure this focus on implementation isn't just a bunch of talk. At the highest level, the whole thing is organized around these 6 thematic axes. This structure is meant to break down the massive challenge of climate change into more manageable, connected streams of work. You've got everything from energy and transport to human development, and it's all supported by those crucial enablers like finance and technology. Then, each of those big axes is broken down even further into 30 specific actionable objectives, and these are the details that really matter. We're talking about concrete goals like tripling renewables, halting deforestation, and, critically for us, promoting information integrity. This is the detailed checklist that the success of COP30 is going to be measured against. Okay, so a framework is one thing. Actually making it happen is something else entirely. Let's look at the core political and financial mechanisms that are designed to actually push these objectives forward. Politically, the big push is centered on Brazil's 3-part call to action. First, respect the commitments that have already been made through ambitious NDCs. Those are each country's individual climate plans. Second, accelerate action with a concrete roadmap to move away from fossil fuels. And third, put people, especially the most vulnerable, at the absolute center of every single policy. Of course, none of this happens without money.
And this is the number that really defines the scale of that financial challenge. Following the big Baku finance goal, the new target is to mobilize $1.3 trillion from all sources, public, private, you name it, to actually fund this transition.
And the mechanism to get there is the Baku to Belém roadmap. The easiest way to think of it is as the financial work plan for the conference. It's the central document that's supposed to translate that huge $1.3 trillion number from just an aspiration into an actual operational plan for getting capital where it needs to go.
So this brings us to the final, and maybe, for this audience, the most crucial part of this briefing. Where does the scientific community fit into this new era of implementation? Well, the short answer is everywhere. There is an explicit, repeated call for us to get engaged.
And you really couldn't ask for a clearer invitation than this, coming straight from the COP30 president himself. This isn't just some polite diplomatic gesture. The entire structure of this COP of truth is built on the idea that policy has to be guided by evidence. They are actively asking for our input.
So, where are the specific entry points for our work? The official thematic days give us a pretty clear map. Your expertise is needed in dedicated sessions on science, technology, and AI. Research in the bioeconomy, in health, in adaptation planning is absolutely crucial. There's a vital focus on information integrity to fight back against denialism. And of course, foundational areas like forests, oceans, and agriculture are still front and center. This is the action agenda, where our data needs to inform their deeds.
So the bottom line is this. After decades of our community documenting this problem with ever-increasing precision and urgency, the political world has finally shifted its mandate to implementation. The central challenge of Belém is bridging that gap. It's about translating the irrefutable evidence from our labs and our field sites into the language of policy, finance, and law.
And this really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? We have a blueprint for delivery, we have a framework for action, and we have a stated belief in science. But as we cross that 1.5-degree threshold, the clock isn't just ticking anymore, it's sounding an alarm. The fundamental question for COP30, and really for all of us, is whether policy can finally start moving at the speed that our science has long demanded is necessary.